we go. OverDrive, off and running. TSN 1050 on the TSN app, your home smart speaker, and up on TSN 4. Bryan Hayes, the O-Dog, Jeff O'Neill, Jamie Noodles McLennan.
What's up? How we doing?
What's up?
How are you and your loser friend feeling?
Loser? Is
Well,
that what you just
I don't
called
think
us?
it's a loser. Aren't you +2? Or
We
where
are
are we at?
+2. You're talking about Hazen Hot, Hazen Bro, my man Al's brother, who is seeing the board as clearly as a human being can see it. We are on fire, and we are on the clock tonight, and I cannot wait for 5 o'clock when Luke joins us. You guys are such losers in that group chat when we're winning. No comments, Noodles. Both of them are like, I'm working. I was on the panel. Luke's
really?
in the studio.
Like, you guys are so entertaining when we're killing you guys. You don't say any. You literally, Luke every time is like, pretty quiet here. You guys don't say squat, so just have your wins, enjoy it, and chirp us, and go ahead. And just
Okay.
The NFL Films one almost made me drive to your house and light your house on fire. This guy sends in our own individual football chat. He goes, Al's brother, I just got notified from NFL Films. They want to do a documentary on us and our winning streak. I don't want to do it. I want to keep them away. I don't want to get engaged. I was literally, Dregs was speaking on the panel while I was reading that. And I wanted to drive to his house and light it on fire.
It was so obnoxious. And then
It was so
oops, sorry, that was
outrageous.
supposed to just be between
Sorry,
me
that's
and Al's
between
brother.
me
Wrong
and
group
AB.
chat.
Wrong group chat.
Wrong
no.
chat.
I don't know.
Listen, I've said it before. NFL Films, LASIK eye surgery, Visine. What else is out there? Lens Crafters. All these different companies want to be in business with us because we're seeing the board so clearly, and we have the game tonight. It's a really good Monday nighter, and I guess the last 24 hours is all about brothers, right? Where you have John Harbaugh and Jim Harbaugh coaching against each other tonight.
Yeah.
And last night you had William Nylander and Alex Nylander playing on the same team last night.
No
He
idea.
almost scored,
I had no
too.
idea.
He almost
I had no
did.
idea.
Oh, it
those
was
guys
no
were
idea.
close.
It was a pretty big story last
Yeah,
night.
somewhat of a big story.
I
but-
know, it was cool, and I'm glad the Leafs won for that purpose so that you could celebrate it and have fun. Because if you're getting smoked, like if Utah beat them 5-1 last night, there's no, hey, what'd you make of playing with Alex last night? Hey, how cool was that, Craig?
Willie interviewing him and all of that fun stuff. and,
Right, I
like,
don't think that's going to happen. I mean,
That was
they
the
were
only
still,
way it would have been fun is a victory. Like that's
to
the
win.
only
obviously.
way.
You had to win.
100%.
Had to win.
Yeah. I mean, Utah dummied Pitt the night before. Like, Pitt's in a tough spot, as we've been talking about. But
I've been spitballing something on them. I'm going to throw out in a little
Okay.
bit. Okay, I'm going to throw
let's
something at
stick
you
with the
guys. You
Leafs
guys tell
first.
me what you think.
Okay, let's
we'll
stick
get to
with
it
the
later
Leafs
on.
first. Let's stay, but, Utah, you're right. For the Leafs to win that game, it just made it more special. Michael's in the stands. I think one of the sisters was there or whatever. It looked like just a whole family type of affair. Willie scores and Alex damn near scores. And, like, it just kind of, to me, it just kind of put a bow on everything.
It was an awesome night. Like, congratulations to them. That's a really, really cool story. The shot of them on the bench, both leaning over the bench, and you can see the name plate and the number. Like, that's immediately going up, in a man cave or whatever. I'm sure the Leafs will be classy enough to make those and probably send them to his parents and his sisters and all that. Just a really cool night and a win. And, that's become consistent with the Leafs. And a deserved win last night. I thought Utah, again, coming off the night before where you said it, they go down to Pittsburgh and lay a beating on the Pens. Then they fly up. It's a tough spot for Utah. The Leafs have been sitting here waiting. The Leafs haven't played since Wednesday. They're sitting there waiting to go.
It was a must-win. No, that's the wrong word.
It's not a must-win.
It was
but
a right win. It was the right win. Like, you know what I mean?
It should have played out the way it played out last
That's
night.
kind of what I thought. That's the wrong wording, but it was like
I was
it should have
concerned
been a
before
win.
the game. I'm like, Sunday night is a weird vibe. These guys always play Saturdays. It's Utah. I thought it had the makings of like a prototypical trap game. As much as a trap game, it's just the truth is they happen. There's some times where you're off a bit and it's a different night, maybe an afternoon game. The opponent, you put it all in a blender and you come out and you lay an egg. But I thought they responded really well. It seemed like in years past they might have lost that one 4-1 and the old, didn't have it tonight. But they weren't great in the first period, but then they just got it together, which is something that they've been doing well lately. And I think it goes back. I don't want to keep as much as Craig Berube's a good coach, like it's the players that are going out there doing it. But it's just, if you simplify and not deviate, if not deviating is part of the lesson here and a part of the thing that's being implemented, like don't turn it into a skills competition. It's not 3-on-3 to try to get back into the game. They got a bunch of guys just working their ass off and wait for that right opportunity. And when your good players get an opportunity, you pounce. And they did that. And it was a great comeback win.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, that was a thoroughly impressive second period. And like, how often do you see clear-cut breakaways the way we saw last night? You don't see that too often, especially starting in your own zone.
Yeah,
where
like 2 in a period where you're like, okay,
back-to-back, Utah just said, I guess go ahead. Like, Willie battled for the puck and then just blew past Utah. But Mitch read the play very well on his breakaway goal. Tavares made a brilliant play and brilliant read and brilliant pass. But you don't see that very often. Yet that kind of speaks to what you're talking about, is you got to be prepared. You can't cheat on it. You got to let the play develop organically, and once it's there, you got to capitalize, and both guys did last night. And I think what has been proven here without Matthews, without Domi, now Nyes, Pacioretty, is if you have a system, if you have your defense intact and you have good goaltending, you're just going to win in this league. You're just going to win.
What was the first part you said? Defense?
Yes, defensive structure. Your literal defense core, which is what they have. They're very lucky. They have no injuries on defense, and their top four has been playing extremely well. That McCabe-Tanev pairing is the best shutdown pairing they've had in, I honestly, pre-lockout. Like, I don't know the last time they had a pairing that you put on the ice and you feel more confident in them being on the ice against anybody in the league. Go put them on, you feel very comfortable. And let's call it as we see it, and just factually, their goaltending has been outstanding. Like, I was a bit surprised Woll played last night, but we talked about this on Friday. He had the shutout the last game. He's a guy they believe in. He's a guy they've invested in, and I thought he played well last night. Yeah. And so if you get goaltending and you play well defensively, you're going to win a lot in the league. Like, you just are, with or without Matthews.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's a bonus if you have him, and it's a bonus if you have the likes of Nylander and Marner. These are game breakers offensively. But if you have the first two, goaltending and defense, you're just going to win a ton.
Yeah,
you're going to win a lot in pro sports.
Well, you're in every game.
You're in everything.
That's the thing. You're in every game, and then you have game breakers or guys who make special plays or, your power play or something, right? That's what, if you're in every game, then there is a separator. Maybe a goalie on the other side steals one or does something, but if you're in every game, you have an opportunity on different nights to have somebody else step up and go, I can do this, or this is going to happen, or this play happens. To me, that's where the consistency comes in having success, is it's not just the same formula every night. The formula is what you just said, Brian: goaltending, solid structure, coaching, defensive core intact, and then players up front, regardless of depth being challenged, you still have, you still have two special players and one that is playing really well in Tavares, and then everybody else is kind of chipping in. That's the way I don't. Maybe I look at that different, right?
Marner and Nylander, you look at the top 50 list for TSN, which is not an exact science, but Willie was 20th, and Mitch was 22nd or 23rd. They're not playing above and beyond who they are. They're playing who they are. They're playing how you expect them to play. Like, now they've taken on a significant load and responsibility here because the big guy is not there. Matthews was a cheat code. When he's on, he's a cheat code. When he's scoring at a ridiculous clip, it makes everyone's life easier. But they're 7-1 without him. Marner has 2 points in all 7 wins.
Yeah.
Like, he's got 14 points in the 7 wins without him. Like, that's superstar stuff. But that's what you're supposed to be, because that's who you are. And that's who Willie is. Like, that goal by Willie last night is a classic example of how he's grown, where he just said, dude, you're not beating me on this. I got it, and I'm putting on the Jets, and it's going in. Like, it was just a brilliant play by him.
Him and Marner took control of the game offensively.
Absolutely.
They needed something to happen because it looked like one of those nights. I don't know who said it on the panel, but it was just one of those things blurted out where it might be kind of we need a Holmberg goal tonight because these guys have been getting it done. And the second period, they took over and they dominated the hockey game, and that's what they needed.
Yep.
But you mentioned the goaltending and the structure on defense. I still find it bizarre that in the National Hockey League, we're talking about teams that lack structure. How could you be so stupid not to have structure? I don't understand that at the NHL level. You either have incapable players or dumb players. Like, Jamie, do you have any kind of Thought on that? Like, how does a team not have structure?
The only thing so I ask this question all the time, and I ask it to like coaches from out of town, all of that. Like, everyone has a framework of how they want to play. Everybody comes back to me, and even scouts and everything come back as the game is so fast that you have to be able to read and react off of it. They've got an idea of how they want to play situations, right? But everything is so fast that there's so many breakdowns. Like, I don't know how, when you watch a game, there'll be a chance, this is crazy for me, but there'll be a chance where a guy has kind of a half 2-on-1 off the half wall. And I'm like, shoot it or go to the net, and he'll try and make an extra pass, and it gets turned around, and then it goes back to the point. They go low to high, and you're like, that would have been a grade A opportunity had you challenged the net. But coaches now are like, yeah, players just they don't see what they want, so they'll like circle it back or do something else. The game moves so fast, so I think the teams that can get to their structure, play with it, play with the details, those are the ones you see that are having success nightly, where it's like, yeah, this is how we play. And this is how you're going to have to get to our net. And this is how, like, to me, the teams that have the tightest structure are the ones that are in every game. And the other ones are kind of like, yeah, you don't know what inconsistent.
Well, that's what you're seeing with the Leafs right now, because for years we were like, we literally saw some gong shows back there. And it's been for a lot of, it wasn't just the dog park defense. Like, a lot of nights there would be zero physicality, and I literally said it like every pregame show. Zero physicality, watch this, beat to the net, go to the net, and it's been a gong show back there for a long time. And now right now it's settled down with the players that you mentioned, Hayes.
Yeah. Well, and listen, I think a lot of it is it's IQ, it's players' abilities,
maturity,
personnel, and mindset.
For sure. And I think maturity is a big part of it. Again, the top four on this defense, they're all veterans. They're all old players, if we're going to be frank. Like, Tanev, McCabe, Riley, and Ekman-Larsson are like grizzled veterans.
Are they? I mean, Riley's the youngest, isn't he? He's 30, right? So
and he's like
30. Yeah, so it's 30
like
to
he's
34,
married
right?
with kids and a mortgage. He's got a mustache that actually looks great.
No mortgage.
Mustache is pretty good, man.
Let's hope no mortgage. I mean,
probably not a mortgage. He's probably paying cash. But remember, he had that painting thing down in Rose. Something was going on there. People weren't happy with him. He had something going on.
He couldn't paint his house.
Yeah, he couldn't paint his house
been
properly.
Like named a historical building or something like that.
Yeah,
right?
he got called in on.
I don't know. I would paint it for him. I love Morgan that much. Him and
Dude,
Tessa.
I had DMs from a guy that was generally pissed at that. He's like, he better not be allowed to paint it. Like, he was generally out for Riley not to be able to.
Oh, you know it, man. It's a dog walker. Some guy, family been in Rosedale for 6 generations. Can't do it. Not allowed. But yeah, hey, listen, they've got a good thing going, and now they got a couple of days off. They're in Florida on Wednesday, Tampa on Saturday, and that's the thing that gets more and more curious as we move on here. Where I like Fraser Minton's game again last night. Like, they're giving him a lot to chew on here. He was on first power play unit last night. Like, that.
I love that, man. I love that. If you got a kid coming up that was like a point producer and a high draft pick, give him a few sniffs. Like, you got the opportunity where Auston Matthews is out. Throw him out there on the first power play unit and kind of see. I don't think he made the most of it. There was a couple opportunities where I think he's got to understand that in the big leagues, like, you really got to bear down in front of the net. Marner made a quick little pass, which was like you got to be ready at all times with that guy. And
that was a brilliant pass. It was quick, man.
Yeah, it was like an offside one-touch pass, and it went right through, and it was just like, dude, if you're ready for that, you could rip that one-timer right into the back of the net.
Yeah.
But I just like him. I like him seeing that, where he's like, oh, okay. Like, when I played with great players, they'd be like, you better be ready. Ron Francis would be like, you better be ready at all times. Because if I zip one through 5 people and I see you and you miss it, I'll be pissed. And he would be pissed. Mm-hmm. It's like, you got to be ready at all times. But I like what he's doing out there. I don't know if he sticks around or what, but I like what he's doing out there.
Well, waivers are going to factor into this too, right, Noodles? Yeah. Like, he is waiver exempt, so that's going to complicate things.
That's where I was going to chime in. Like, you're right. Like, getting opportunity. The one thing that I keep bringing up, and I don't want to, like, this isn't a slight, but like Nick Robertson, like, there's guys that haven't been able to seize some of the opportunity, and you get somebody like Minton that does. Now, again, waivers, other things. I unfortunately think that Minton, when the dust settles, will probably go back down just based on numbers, and you just mentioned it, waiver exempt situation. But when you look at the guys that have kind of gotten opportunity. Does Robertson stand out for you, or
Jamie,
is
Nick Robertson, if he couldn't find an opportunity to step up and rip home some goals with all these guys out with injuries, when is the time?
Well, I guess that's where I come back to. It's like, when you're testing the depth of your organization due to injuries, guys get more opportunity. Nick Robertson should, based on what we've seen in the past as far as him coming up to the NHL, the opportunity should be there for him to play in the top 6 and with better players. That's just, like Minton gets a look. Robertson has to seize that. And when he doesn't, it's Pacioretty that pushed ahead of him. It's Bobby McMahon that pushed ahead of him. Like, it's just other guys that they're like, okay, we're going to give those minutes to somebody else. And that's what concerns me for that particular player I just brought up is you like him, you want him to have success, but in the end, you got to do it. You got to back up.
You've got to perform.
Exactly.
You've been given ample opportunity, and at some point, like, Nyes is going to return and play. Obviously, yes. Austin's going to return and play. Domi's going to return and play. Like, those 3 guys are going to return, and they're going to play. And I think David Kampf returns and plays. He's got 2 years left after this. They like what he brings to the table. He's going to return and play. I think everything after that, I have no idea when Calle Jarnkrok is going to return, and I don't know when Max Pacioretty is going to return. But Pacioretty's going to have to prove that he can get the engine going again, right? Not a young guy.
I would say David Kampf has to do that too.
I think he should. But
because what you're watching right now, you're watching just guys with energy. Like, who would you say? Like, if David Kampf told the coach he was healthy on Wednesday, who would be coming out? I would say you're going to have to sit and wait for a bit.
He might. I mean, I guess you could look at Connor Dewar. You could look at Alex Steves. There's a couple of guys where I think he would play ahead of them. Reeves is a different story because of the uniqueness of what he brings and how he plays. I don't think he's looking at it saying, "Oh, that guy's really flying out there. That's a concern for me."
No, there's different guys playing well. How many times has Ryan Reeves fought this year? He understands that if there's not a heavyweight on the other side, he's probably not playing either.
Well, I think you're right, but I guess what I'm saying is I think that should have been true anyway, with or without a suspension, with or without other playing well. If you're in a track meet, Reeves probably isn't going to be in the lineup or shouldn't be. If you think Rempe's in town or Jack Guy's in town or whatever, he's going to be in the lineup. I think Berube will be more and more selective with that as the year goes on. But as these guys come back, it's going to be intriguing to see what they decide to do here. But the Leafs are in a good place, and this is a big week because you have another really break. You got two days off
easy
until
schedule,
Wednesday, and then another 2 days off. You play Saturday in Tampa. Not a ton of – there's no travel on that. You're going from South Beach to Tampa. That's 2 hours in the state with 2 days in between.
Yeah. There's potential there.
If you're driving, it's 2 hours. You're right. It's like a 30-minute flight if you're
flying. Well,
hey,
it's an hour flight, 4-hour drive.
Guys, just a quick little note.
Not to be a stickler, but
on the
sorry,
on the depth, guys. Remember a couple of weeks ago when I was talking about the 4th line and just saying they were literally going up and down the ice and like nothing was happening. At least those guys, Steves and those guys, they were playing hockey and making something happen. Like, at least there's some effectiveness to it. Like, that 4th line before was literally going from one end zone to the other and back, and it was almost like they weren't playing hockey. Like, nothing was happening. Mm-hmm. There was nothing productive happening.
Well, it's going to come down to what Berube is willing to play in that role. You know what I mean? Like, Alex Nylander's not playing on the 4th line. That's not going to happen. And that's the question. Like, who of these players, the Grabenkins, the Alex Steves, maybe Fraser Minton, like, who can you trust in a role like that? Because he's going to want his 4th line to look a little bit different.
Yeah, I think DeWar would be a guy who's kind of more trusted and cemented there. It would be Steves, Grabenkin, Minton. Nylander is probably, like you say, Alex would probably play 3rd line, but mix and match. Like, the bottom 6 was Grabenkin, Minton, Nylander, Steves, DeWar, Lorentz. Lorentz then coming out. Lorentz is
going to play.
Lorentz is a player. He's a player. I think DeWar is a guy that in and out, but he's more an everyday NHLer. It's the other 4, Grabenkin. For me, it's Grabenkin. I don't know. I think Steves has more, upside as far as skill. But then it depends on what you want. Maybe Grabenkin plays that left side on the 4th line and just runs around and snowshoes around.
I doubt he's still here. I mean, once the pros come back, guys are going to move down.
Yeah,
I mean, that's naturally going to happen. But I think the Leafs should be feeling very optimistic about the depth they have. Right? They should be feeling good about the fact that they've survived what a lot of other teams wouldn't be able to. Like you lose this many NHL players, everyday guys.
Dude, it's problems.
That's a massive hit. And they have just cruised through it. And they're not winning because Wall's making 45 saves or, one guy in particular is putting up 4 goals a night. It has been a pretty consistent effort. And they should be certainly happy with that and happy with the options that they're going to have moving forward. If and when more injuries pop up. The question will become if and when it happens on defense. We've now seen the forwards be hit. We've seen the goaltenders be hit with Wall early in the year. The defense has been very, very injury proof, really.
Lucky, knock on wood, whatever, however you want to phrase it, right?
So eventually that will be tested, eventually, and you'll see what they do with it. But it is going to be a fun week for the Leafs with Florida on Wednesday, Tampa on Saturday. So we'll continue to look back on the win last night, start to look ahead to the week. There's a lot going on in the NHL. We have the Monday Nighter tonight, the Harbaughs. We've got our best bets today. We've got, obviously, something to chew on. And I've been spitballing something that should make sense. I'll throw it out there. You guys tell me what you're going to shoot it down immediately.
I know exactly what you're thinking. I swear on my life, I believe I know what you're thinking.
Okay, well, come back.
And
you guys tell me what
city that are pissed. They're going to be pissed at you.
You come back.
If it's in Crosby to Colorado,
you come back and you tell me what you think I'm thinking, and then I'll give you the goods. All right.
Okay,
Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 4. All right, Luke Wilson, Al's brother, coming up in just over half an hour. Ravens-Chargers tonight. The Harbaugh Bowl, the third time these two will coach against each other. Jim for the Chargers, John for the Ravens. And I always think about the family members, in moments like this. The Nylanders playing together last night, the Harbaughs coaching against each other tonight. I think it'd be more stressful for the Harbaughs because someone's going to lose. Right, like one of them is going to lose,
and it's like intense and like crush that guy and kill that guy.
It's worse. I think it's a really cool moment. Think about how proud you'd be if you're like those. Like both my kids are out there, head coach of 2 really good teams. Ravens and Chargers are both playoff bound, like really good
and
teams.
2 of the best football coaches going, like
absolutely
highly respected. You can pick whoever you want tonight, you and the bot. My initial thought is this is a game that Justin Herbert loses, man. That's what I
historically speaking, I think you're accurate.
He loses this game and he doesn't play very well. In this, I found watching him in the past, this moment comes up and he just falls short.
Yes. And I think
do
conversely,
what you like.
We will.
With it.
Oh, we're not going to be swayed by you guys. I mean, come on. We don't need any outside help with where we're at right now. But conversely, during the regular season, coming off a tough week last week, this is one where Lamar Jackson says, buckle up. Like, let's go here. But the Chargers defense has been really good. Like, number 1 in the league in terms of points allowed. They're giving up nothing, like just over 2 touchdowns a game, and that's about it. So I think it'll be a good game. It's a tight spread. It's Ravens minus 2.5. So they're a slight favorite on the road. It's in L.A. There'll be a ton of Ravens fans. But it's going to be a good game, really good game. There's a lot to get into from yesterday in the NFL, like there always is. And, the New York football scene is just crazy right now.
So
what's going on?
Is Dable, did they get fired today or not?
No,
is that rumors,
none of
right?
those guys, they didn't get fired, but it feels as if they might as well do the Daniel Jones. Like, Dable should come out and just say, I want to thank the Morrow family. I want to thank everyone in New York. Like, he might as well give his statement, because I don't think Dable's going to survive this, and I don't think the GM will either.
Well, the biggest insult to injury is what Saquon is doing. Everyone is just like, this guy's possibly going to win the MVP?
That's what's so crazy, is it's legitimate conversation about a running back winning the MVP.
And they just let him walk.
And like that game he had last night, man, this guy is just putting on a clinic every time he touches the ball.
It's ridiculous.
It's
and
crazy.
They dicked him around for years with his contract, and then they just let him walk. And that's adding insult to just the nonsense. Like, they've got players literally being interviewed with the Giants after the game. They're like, we suck ass. One guy said, we suck ass.
Yeah, I know.
And it's like,
it's ugly. It's really ugly. And Malik Neighbors, who's a rookie,
is
calling out Dable and calling out the whole staff.
Oh, he's like, it ain't the quarterback, man. Figure it out. I'm like, pardon me?
This guy's been in the league for 12 games.
Yeah.
That's bold, man.
Yeah, it was rich for him to say, I'm tired of the losing. It's
Yeah.
like, dude, it's your first year.
Honestly, you were in college like 3 months ago. Relax. Anyway, more on that with Luke in about a half an hour. We got some big games in the NHL tonight, as well as in Ottawa, where there's a lot of news coming out of Ottawa. Jason York will join us in a couple of hours, and we'll tell you more on what we're hearing out of Ottawa and what could be happening with the Sens. But on Saturday, the Utah Hockey Club, which it always does look weird. Someone sent me a screenshot of it last night, like Hockey Club versus Maple Leafs. It's just so weird that that's their official team name.
I love their jerseys, though. Did you not like their
Great
look?
jerseys.
I think
agree.
their look is amazing.
Guys, I
Brilliant.
think it might be a nice color scheme, but am I missing? All it says is Utah on it. Like, what do you like about that?
The colors are
the
cool.
color scheme. It just to me, I come back to the Washington football team or whatever they called it.
Yeah.
Like it was a giant FU to whoever was mad at their, all of that other. Like to me, it was like. I would have preferred they stuck with it instead of the Commanders. And to me, like the Utah Hockey Club, like it's almost a shot back at Arizona. It's like we're just going to take your team, or we're going to and we're going to call it the Hockey Club, and that's it. Like it just, I don't know. I love their color scheme. You're right. They are going to be like the Yeti or something weird, and it'll end up being a name that everyone settles into, like the Kraken and all that. But I don't know. For some reason, I'd like it. Maybe I might be in the minority.
Cool with it too. I'm a color scheme guy. O doesn't have that artistic eye that you and I have.
It's a silly comment. It's like, I love their jerseys. Like, it says Utah.
Well, obviously, it's not going to say that forever.
All right.
It's
so what's this scheme you're coming up with? Like, you had some brilliant idea.
Well, it's not a scheme. It's just here's I'm going to lay this out that I believe history would suggest this would be reasonable to suggest. I don't think it's going to, for multiple reasons, including the parties involved. But this Pittsburgh Penguins story, go ahead. You guess, Noodles, first what you think I'm thinking of. Because you think you've got it nailed.
Well, I just I know you, so you're thinking like it's Crosby. Just let me. I don't know exactly, but
Flush
just
it out.
Is Sidney Crosby's name involved in this? Yes or no?
Yes.
There it is. So right away, you're already going. Sidney Crosby to whoever. Like, let's just because
what team do you think I'm thinking of?
Well,
Toronto Maple
Leafs.
Absolutely,
yes.
I am. Absolutely, right. And you tell me why this couldn't happen outside of Sid being overly loyal. Now I know what people are going to say. Dubas won't do it, and he might not. And if he's so petty that he won't make a deal with the Leafs, if I'm in Pittsburgh, I'd fire him immediately because you can't have that type of operation. It's one thing if the owner said I wouldn't allow it. It's another thing if Dubas was like, I'm not working with Shanahan, I'm not working with the Leafs, and I don't think Kyle would do that. But nobody knows the Maple Leaf organization better than Kyle Dubas and Wes Clark. Wes is down there too. Wes was running the draft operation up here forever. I know this is a Joe from the Bridge type 5, but let's face it, every game it gets uglier in Pitt. It's embarrassing down there. This guy scored his 600th career goal, and they lost 6-1 to the Hockey Club. That's how bad it is. And they got pumped by Winnipeg the night before. They might be the worst team in the league. They're close. And how they keep Sullivan around, I have no idea.
Well,
I have no idea how
guys,
they keep
I said
doing
it last night. They keep getting pumped, and it's like, don't look over here. There's nothing to see. We're still the Pens. It's like, no, you're not.
You're a mess. You're a mess. And listen, I get it that Sid is loyal and probably not going to leave. So that is the first thing you need to address. But the Leafs need someone up the middle of the ice to put them over the top. I believe
100%. It's not even. I don't think it's a question. They need depth.
And who
down
knows
the middle
this
of the
organization better than Dubas?
Okay,
in terms
but
of
what
what
are you going to be,
want.
Joe from the Bridge? You're going to be Joe from the Bridge?
But I don't. What I'm saying is, I keep seeing like, oh, go to Colorado. Why Colorado? Because he's buddies with McKinnon. You know, I thought last year when I was talking about it, I thought Boston made sense. I still kind of do if they get their act together because they need help up the middle of the ice. But man, come on. That's the play. So every time I talk about I want Sid out and I want Sid out,
okay,
I'm going to put the Leafs on blast and say, you got to go get him. If he's available, go get him. That's what I'm saying right here, right now.
What if Kyle goes? What if Kyle goes? I'll take Easton Cowan.
Sure, let's talk. Sid's got 2 more years left on his deal. How long is this window in Toronto?
Well,
how big is the window? Sid's got this year and two left. That's a three-year contract with Sid up the middle of the ice. You might have to eat some money, Kyle, but we can talk. We can
Easton
talk,
Cowan, Alex Nylander in a first. Who says
Alex
no?
Nylander. Okay, Alex Nylander.
Now
Who says no? Who says no?
Now you're
I
talking.
say no. You could have had him for free 3 days ago, Alex
Now
Nylander.
you're talking. Now you're talking. See, I'm starting to get
I don't
people
think
on
it's
board.
happening, and I don't think Sid would waive to come here. I don't
think he'd waive to go anywhere, quite frankly. But
Yeah.
wouldn't that complete what is already an all-time great career?
How the hell do you afford his money? You have to
ask
make
him to
him like
eat some of it. You got to eat some of it. I mean,
ask
clearly,
lots of things, but like I don't know. It'd have to be a third party. You'd have to pay through.
This
the
is what
nose,
sucks
man.
about the league, Noodles. Is that is a totally reasonable question. That you can't even think of deals without saying, well, what are you going to do about money and the cap and what about this, that, and the other?
But that's the world we live in. I mean, every team has, or every league has some form of, how you circumvent or how you deal with things. But I listen, I think it's a.
Would it not be a smart move for the leagues?
fence.
Would it not be a smart move for the leagues?
100%. It's a smart move.
Okay, so it's not a Joe from the bridge. Go get McDavid.
Listen,
that's not going to happen.
It's still a Joe from the bridge making it work. It's not a Joe. It's the thought of it. You can dream of it, but it's still a Joe from the bridge making it work. Going,
okay, Noodles, you got to do me one favor.
True enough.
You got to do me one favor, Noodles. What is a package? I want you to be dubious right now.
Again,
tell me a.
But let's pretend Sid goes, I want to play in Canada before I retire.
This is out of your mind, crazy ass stuff. But if you're dubious, what is something that you would say, oh, let me call you back because that's got me interested. I'm like Dougie Armstrong, where when I'm hungry, I eat.
Yes, Jimmy Montgomery.
Okay, so then how about then do you... Again, because we're just being hypothetical and being
this
crazy.
This is clearly stupid talk, but in the back of our heads, me and Hayes really want it to happen. But go ahead.
Okay, so I'll trade you Sidney Crosby and Tristan Jarry for Joseph Woll and Easton Cowan and a first and maybe a second first because of the term on Crosby's thing.
Right.
Oh, and you think I'm eating money, so there's your second first. I'm talking it's a package that Tree might just hang up the phone and go, I can't make that happen. But that's what I'm like. Kyle Dubas isn't doing anybody favors. He's trying to make his organization better.
Of course.
So what he's going to do is if he's going to try and cycle out some of the things that he wants to either undo or start the rebuild starts at the 25-year-old goaltender or 26, and if you don't believe in Jarry, then you move Jarry. Jarry's got to go out the other way.
Don't believe in Jarry. Jarry's when I hang up the phone if I'm Tree. I just literally tell my secretary.
That's what complicates things. So
I
we've
tell
already
the
hit a
secretary
snag.
to cut the
We've
phone.
already hit a snag.
Okay, I know. But my point is, it's like it's not for Hansen or whatever, Gurbankin, and and a fifth. Like it's
Obviously.
a serious thing, and again, Kyle is going to try and make his organization better immediately. So I'm looking at how you turn that quickly. Well, he needs goaltending and he needs young players to infuse into that. So that's where I'd be starting, and it's probably a no from Tree on the other end for that.
It's a complicated deal. It is a complicated deal.
Yeah.
It's a very complicated deal. But it would be complicated in Colorado, in Edmonton, wherever he to go. If he were to be dealt, the question is whether or not he would be driving it. If he wants out, he'd probably have a team or two in mind, and they would, I'm sure, respectfully send him wherever, or he doesn't have to waive. I mean, he's got a full no trade, full no move.
Hayes, I gotta be honest. If you had a candid moment with him, I can't understand. Everyone's like loyal to Pitt. Like if you just sat down with him man to man, like and had a beer, and like you just said, "Do you really want to stay?" And no matter how bad you guys are, I'd have a hard time believing he would say yes.
Well, like they are getting pumped. That back-to-back, those were 2 home games. At home to Winnipeg, at home to Utah.
Oh, I'm aware.
And they got dummied for both. That's a struggle, man. Like they are legitimately a lottery team right now. Like that's where they are. Like Sid is hitting the lottery website, and wondering what's going on with mock drafts. Like where's Craig Button's list of the players coming next year? Because Sid wants to know, because that's who we might be playing with next year. We're talking high-end talent. The top of the board. That's how ugly it is, and I don't know. I don't know how it changes. I don't expect
they get pumped
around.
5 of 7 games, and then that's what they do. They win a couple, then they get pumped a bunch, and then they win one. And it's like no one. Honestly, it's just crazy how it's like nothing to see over there. That's still Sid and Gino and Sullivan and those guys. So don't look over there. And
well, it's
like,
out of respect to their history, which I understand.
Dude, I get it, but how do you not like how you're screwing your organization with the players that they have, the older guys, and not doing anything about it? To just let that run out, that's insane. That is insane.
I hear you.
Yeah.
And people are bent out of shape down there. And Something to Chew On is brought to you by Boston Pizza's new Game Day menu. Stop by your local BP for $7 touchdown pints, shareables for the whole crew, and weekly prizing up for grabs. Football game days are better at your local BP, and we're asking online which fan base should be kind of more upset with what's going on recently, Pittsburgh or Ottawa. Because Ottawa, they had the platform on Saturday night. The Leafs weren't playing. It was hockey night. It was Ottawa versus Vancouver, and they lost again. I think that's 5 in a row since they beat the Leafs. The Leafs haven't lost since they lost to Ottawa, and Ottawa hasn't won since they beat the Leafs.
Yeah, they're 0-4-1, and they got Calgary tonight, and then out to San Jose, LA, Anaheim. So tonight is pivotal, but they got to get their act together. I mean, I didn't like their game Saturday, and to me, everyone's upset about Brady being emotional. I love Travis Green's comments today.
He supported him and went to war for him.
Are you guys crazy? Are you crazy wanting a guy not to be emotional?
Don't you think he needs to stop with the grabbing a guy to fight though with 4-1 to go? I didn't understand that, Noodles. I got to be honest. Why is he grabbing Dakota Joshua and just picking a fight? Couldn't he have been on the ice when it was 4-3 and they pulled the goalie? They probably could have used him.
Probably.
When does it get to a point where
that just goes back to the blueprint? It's like they're down 4-1 and he's got to fight. It's like
I don't think anyone questions his passion.
He didn't have his first fight until last week. That's the thing. Everyone's acting like he's been doing it a lot. He didn't do it at all. His first 15 games, he didn't have a fight.
But I don't think anybody. I can't speak for everyone in the market, but I don't think anyone questions his passion. He is a dogged, passionate. That's never been up for grabs. It's never been debatable. I think what you're getting is in Ottawa, you're getting a lot of people who are a jaded fan base who are like, I'm sick of this, man. They're losing again. They're doing it again.
Agreed. There's no defending that. You look at the standings, they got to get going. But the bottom line is I just think you're choosing the wrong person to get mad at. A guy who scores 30 to 40 goals, fights, gets a bunch of points, is a good leader, 6'4". That's not the guy you should be mad at. You should be mad at, Nick Cousins and Amadio and Shane Pinto and guys who have 0 goals or 1 goals. Their depth isn't there. To me, their goaltending hasn't made the saves he wanted. To me, there's 5 other things you should be mad at before you get to, Brady's too emotional. I guess that's my point.
And I wouldn't disagree with that. I hear what you're saying.
It's down the line on the depth chart of complaints.
That's kind of where I was going.
Reasonable.
Not that there's not it just seems like, okay, if we're going to park that over there, we're going to be mad at this. But I'm like, don't be mad at that. Be mad at going, geez, Nick Cousins took another penalty. This guy's won a Stanley Cup last year. You need him to chip in. You need him to be an agitator. And instead, it's 0. There's nothing there right now. David Perron obviously had a personal thing, so he's come back, but he's still got 0 goals. You expect him to be a guy to chip in. Amadio has a couple goals. I think he's fine. But to me, their group, you're looking at it, it's the depth. It's the guys they brought in to help this group, other than Nick Jensen, who I think has been very fine. That's the problem for me first, before I get to, geez, Brady, did something stupid. They
got a couple of weeks here to get back into this thing, or let's be serious, it's going to be game over again. And this is the last time I'm going to talk about the Sens, because I'm getting tired of talking about them, because it just seems like we're bashing them all the time. I love everybody there. I love a bunch of their players. I've seen individually players play. Josh Norris had a game against the Edmonton Oilers. It's the best game I've seen him play in 2 years. He was hard on pucks. He was shooting the puck. He was off. But they're just so wildly inconsistent. It's crazy. Yes. And to think that they're at a point where they're struggling to get into the playoffs, sometimes, sooner or later, someone's got to look at that and say, if they're still, after all these years, that far from getting in, why are we even talking about the term championship hockey team? If they're still, after all these years, they're not even close to getting in.
Well,
So
I don't know who.
we're not talking about playoff experience winning a round.
I think they're still young though too. That's my point. They just had the core 4 under 24, weren't they? What?
They were
sixth
number
or seventh?
1 on that. Oh no, Montreal was. They were in the top 10. They were in Craig's top 10.
The point is they need to grow and mature, and I thought with some of the moves they made to try and help those guys grow and mature, it hasn't happened so far. That's what I see there too. Is this group needs to take a step. There's championship. I don't think that's ever been talked about. I think. I mean, like the Leafs are at the top of the Atlantic, and they haven't been brought up in championship conversations yet because they haven't what they've done in the playoffs. Ottawa's a tier below that, and trying to make the playoffs. So to me, that's what they're trying to do is take the step to be in that playoff conversation. Haven't done that yet. And
I don't think number 18 is good a player as he is. I think he's a right winger. I think he's a left-handed shooting right winger like Pavel Bure, and I don't think he's a center iceman. That's my fantastic talent. He's one of the top players.
Yeah, you've said a few times he's not good on draws. I think he's really low.
He's just not. He's like when I look at a centerman who's like down and heavy on their stick in the corners and just certain aspects of his game. I just see the tip of his stick like bouncing around the ice, and he is a left-handed shooting right winger, and that's just my opinion on that guy. You put him with a reliable centerman and Tkachuk on the left side, you're going to have a dangerous line. But I don't know why they steer away. Maybe it's because everybody values the center ice position. I don't think that guy's a center iceman. I think he could be one of the best right wingers in the league, but I don't think he's a centerman.
Well, maybe there's an experiment there, but they have to find a way to get consistency in their lineup. We talked about the start of the show, how well the Leafs have played, and there's a formula there, right? It's goaltending, it's defensive structure, and then it's your top players delivering on any given night where they're in it. They're not there. They're not in that consistent realm of like systematic play, details of the game. Hey, we're going to win 2-1 tonight if we have to. If that's
Jamie,
what
you
the
just
game
mentioned
looks
the
like.
Leafs. Mitch Marner is another example. He's a right-handed. He's a right winger that makes plays all over the ice, and he does it from a different view. Not a center iceman.
I don't disagree with your assessment of some of the players. Maybe Josh Norris is that guy. Maybe Shane Pinto gets to a point where he is there.
Try it one period. Shane Pinto at center, Tkachuk on left wing, and the kid 18 on right wing. Try it one period.
Yes. But it just getting back. It just to me, like I understand, and maybe Jason York's going to have a different view of it, and I'm looking forward to he's there in the market, so he has the pulse every day because he lives there. He's got the pulse,
and
right?
This is where, like, listen, it's a complicated job here for Steve Staios and company because Staios is. This is what I used to say all the time about the Leafs. When the Leafs would run through new management, they'd show up and say, hey, you got to give me time. Fans are like, I've been here my whole life.
Right.
Shove your time. I don't I don't have time. Like, don't give me your time. But yet Staios is like, they're trying to figure out who works, who doesn't. Because not all these guys are going to stick around. Like, that's another element of it. You're not going to have 7 or 8 guys deep that you're just going to have for a decade. That rarely happens with any team, if any.
And sorry to interrupt one thing. I don't think they should. There might be, like, if I'm Ottawa and Steve Staios, there might be a shakeup of a player that would be deemed in the court. Maybe it's Drake Batherson that has to go to, he's a really nice player. I like him. 68 points last year, like really affordable contract. I think at 4.9 or something. Like, he's a hell of a player. But to me, something has to give here. Like, something has to give where it's like
Colorado traded Owen Nolan for Sandis Ozolic.
We always say this.
We got a lot of forwards. We got to get a defenseman.
We always say this. When we live in Toronto, it's like, when are you going to do something? When are you going to break up that core four? What are you going to if you keep coming back to the well and going, geez, something's going to change, like then what Tree did changed the D. He wanted a different goaltending. Like you changed a lot. To me, something might have to give. I don't know what that is. I'm not paid to do that. But from the outside and being around the team, there's lots of good players there, but they're not playing together. Maybe it is something that's coming down the pike where it's like, we didn't see that coming. But now the injury to Zub.
That's the thing. Zub's got a fractured foot, and he's going to be out.
And they missed him when he got hurt earlier in the season because they had guys trying to punch above their weight.
That throws off your whole defense core and everything exactly on the back end. So Jason York on that. Chris Johnston coming up later this afternoon as well. OverDrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 4.
Just need to know, Hayes, would Sid be wearing 87 for the Leafs?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Mandatory. It has to happen. And we need to will this into existence. I'm sorry. I need to get everybody on board. I need to see this happen. I need to see Sid play in Toronto.
It's not happening.
It's probably not, but just give us this opportunity, Noodles. The Leafs
as much as it would be like, it's cool. But as soon as Tristan Jarry and dumping bad contracts come into play, I literally cut the phone line outside of my building. And
I didn't want to hear that.
I
was hoping.
Was that like a wrench
that one stung.
That was throwing a pair of dirty shorts right over top of this idea. This is what it was.
I didn't mean to give you a wedgie on it. I'm telling you. I'm just saying, as a manager, going, hey, what are we doing
That was from
here?
the top rope.
Yeah, that was your hanging on the stands while the football
I'm just
team
saying,
practices.
If I'm trying to rebuild my organization, it starts in net. So that's what I'm going to do. I go, hey, give me the young goalie.
I think you're onto something. That's what I'm saying. Like, Dubas knows the organization. He knows Wall.
Yeah.
He'd know Count. He'd know other prospects.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
He would be looking under the hood, and he'd be finding things that he wants. I mean, there's no disputing that.
Yeah.
That's the whole other end of the coin thing that is more uncomfortable. But, we'll see what comes of it. Chris Johnston coming up in about an hour and 10 minutes. Luke Wilson on the Monday Nighter tonight. What he saw in the NFL yesterday. Al's brother with the pick tonight. Hayes and Bro on the clock. Hour 2 coming up. OverDrive continues. TSN 1050 and on the TSN app.